Hello everybody, James here, and it's Storytime with Dutch Mantell, episode 135. I'm James, of course, as I said in the beginning, and deep in the, tomb of the unknown soldier, in the blackened darkness of the. Why are you so dark, Dutch? You've messed around with settings, haven't you?
No, I have not. I swear, really. Well, I did it just a little bit.
I know.
I'll tell you what would fix it if I came out and come back in. But you're afraid of that, aren't you?
I am afraid of that, yeah. So we're just going to leave it with this. We're just going to have Dutch just, haunting us from the other side of the Atlantic.
Tell everybody that's watching right now, if it's dark, just get a flashlight. Put a flashlight on the screen and it'll lighten it up.
Oh, goodness me. There's always something, isn't there? There's always something.
It is always something with you.
Yeah. Are you well?
I want to tell everybody that's listening, working with James is like working for a perfectionist. Everything has to be just right here, there, touch it here, go over here. Yeah, we spend 30 minutes setting up. But anyway.
Well, we got through it in the end. Well, say we got through it. Nothing's changed. It's still too dark and your headphones are weird. But never mind, we've got a show for you anyway, so we will plow through. Anyway, you sound better than last week.
You can see my mustache, right?
Oh, yeah, of course. That's all we can see. You're just a floating mustache.
It's going there. See there?
Yeah, it's coming into a heart,
It is. Okay, let's start it. I got a lot to say today and a short time to say it in.
Right then, well, we'll do the intro very quickly. Facebook, WSI, links in the description. My YouTube channel's James Romero, The Stevie Richards Show. Another one which I filmed a load of stuff for yesterday that's coming out hopefully in the next few weeks. Again, I keep promising.
What is it?
Oh, a new YouTube. It's a new YouTube channel that I'm trying to launch, but there's.
What's the name of it?
I'm not going to tell you yet. Will.
Why? You're not going to tell me, or you're not going to tell everybody else?
No, I'm not going to tell anybody. I'll tell you. But no, we're not. I'm not telling anyone yet. But we'll get there. We'll get there. Then there is.
You're doing this. Are you doing this by yourself?
It's becoming more of a team effort, actually.
Oh,
so
okay.
Yeah, I was struggling through quite a lot of stuff, quite frankly. But it's great stuff. So it'll be worth it in the end. There is Dutch's books, of course, Tales from a Dirt Road and The World According to Dutch. Two fine tomes. Two fine. Not autobiographies, but just fine books with wrestling stories. There they both are. If you want them unsigned, you go to Amazon.com. Links are in the description. If you want them signed, you go to dirtydutchmantell with 2 L's at gmail.com. Make your request there. Dutch also has diplomas for sale. He has WCW trading cards and a few University of Dutch hats as well. And one more thing is questions for Dutch at gmail.com. That is the email you use to email in the show with your questions for Ask Dutch Anything that drops every single Sunday. Right then, Dutch, are we ready?
Well, let me say something about I am still getting book orders out that I got behind on. So, folks, if you haven't gotten your merchandise, you will get them sometime. Believe me. Just take that to heart. Now they've started, emailing me, and I don't blame them because they paid for this months ago. And, when I got sick, I couldn't do nothing to March. I mean, my brain waves were all over the place. And how many weeks did I miss doing this show?
6? Yeah, about 6. It's funny, actually. I say funny, but it always seems to be 6 weeks or 5 weeks or something like that you end up taking off. I think there was one time you had to take... It must have been over 2 months with illness as well.
Well, hopefully I can avoid this coming up. So let's go, because I got a lot to say, and I've been watching a lot of stuff and listening to a lot of people. And so let's kick it off.
Well, why don't we talk about sickness and health and all that kind of thing? I'm not doing a wedding, what the vicar says at the wedding, I guess. But, from your health, from one wrestling legend to another, Jim Ross, colon cancer. Unfortunately, the Hall of Famer, WWE Hall of Famer and current AEW commentator, he took to social media a couple of days ago to share the news. He's once again dealing with cancer, this time in his colon. Here is the tweet. Diagnosed this week with colon cancer. Surgery being scheduled in the next week or two. I appreciate your concern and support. So that's all we have. But yeah, he's going through the wars.
Did it say what stage it was?
No, that's everything we know.
Well, Jim, my heart is with you. James too. And you're a fighter. But it looks like he has fought a lot of injuries. and a lot of things health wise. And if there's a guy to beat it, it would be Jim Ross. So Jim, we're pulling for you. Everybody else is pulling for you. So hang in there, buddy.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, because, I mean, obviously the Bell's palsy, which is well documented throughout the years that he's suffered with and been fired for.
What is that? It paralyzes your face. That's all I know.
Yeah, it can do. I'm not the person to ask. Sometimes with Bell's palsy that bounces back, and you recover from it. Other people don't, and the paralysis is permanent. He also had skin cancer, I believe, recently. He had colon issues some time ago as well. I mean, Jim Ross, it's like between you and him, you're just collecting ailments, it seems.
Well, hey, that's what happens when you get older. And everybody's headed that way. James, you're headed that way. And one day you're going to think back and say, I told Dutch one time talking about Jim Ross, about older guys getting sick, and now I'm sick. I hope it doesn't happen to you. And but that's what happens to everybody. Every living thing on the earth gets older and disappears. So
when was the last time you spoke to Jim?
Oh, a long time. Because the last time I saw him, I guess I was in WWE back then. And yeah. And it's been over 10 years. I haven't spoken to him since.
I know we don't do guests, or we don't do guests anymore, but he's one that I would like to talk to. I've never spoke to Jim.
You want me to call him?
He might be busy at the moment.
No, if you call him, he doesn't know who you are. Well, he may, because he probably watches this show, because
if he's got any taste, he does.
Through this show, he might know you. So
maybe. But you never know.
I'm gonna get in contact with him just for you, just because you asked for it, and we're to interview him. And he would be a good guest, because all the knowledge he has over the old Jim Ross years and the WCW years and the WWF years and WWE years, he transcends the realms of ownership, and I think he would be a great guest. And some of those old stories he's got, and I need to remember some of the old stories he used to tell. Hilarious and true.
Well, that's never stopped us. The true bit, anyway, of telling stories.
Hey, if it's not true, just make it up and make it funny. That's just what I do anyway.
Did you meet Jim first time in Mid-South, or did you meet him beforehand?
No, I met him in Mid-South. Yes,
yeah.
I did.
What was his duties in Mid-South at the time? Because I know he was doing commentary, but what else did he do behind the scenes?
What was he doing then? Commentary.
But he was Bill's second in command, basically. Was he doing other?
Yeah, basically, he was the announcer. And I'm pretty sure he worked in the office too. So he was helping Bill, I guess, do other things. And this is back in what I call the stagecoach days. We didn't have the internet. They didn't have the internet. They couldn't send things. I'll just send it to you on a super link or whatever. No, when they put tapes out, they had to make a tape for every station. And then it would start bicycling. Say, let's take Memphis. Memphis would play first, and then it would go to 3 stations. It would go to the Nashville stations, and then it would go to the Louisville stations, and it would go to the Evansville, Indiana station, and Lexington, Kentucky stations, and they were all a week late. And those used to be those really big, like 2-inch tapes, and kind of heavy too. And you'd have to ship those, and then they'd have to return them. That actually got expensive after a while, but that's the way they did it. No more like, you couldn't connect to the internet and just, send the tape. And there was no anything then like USA Today or Netflix or anything like that. So
there probably was USA Today, though.
What's that?
The newspaper?
No, they had USA Today newspaper, but I'm talking about USA Network is what I'm trying to say. Don't correct me again, James.
No, I'll try not to.
I swear to God, I will come through these coaxial cables and just slap you upside the head.
If it makes you feel better, there was a USA Network in 85.
What is coaxial? What's that mean?
No idea.
See? Okay.
We just know it works.
See, folks, that's why me and James make a good pair. We just talk. And if something I ask him, he says, I don't know. I don't know either. So we just continue going on.
We're sort of like Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder. You know, was it see no evil, hear no evil?
I love those guys.
Yeah. Right, we're going to... we've got to say, best wishes to Jim. Get well.
Yep, best wishes.
Right then, from illness, sickness to injury, Zoey Stark.
Oh, my God.
Oh, that was a bad one. Right, tell everybody what happened.
Okay, I don't think we can play any AEW stuff here.
That's good because it's WWE.
Do what now?
It's WWE.
Yeah. But you can go to the internet and...
No, I'll tell you what, let's forget it. Why don't we watch it? We'll watch it together. One sec. Okay, then, we've got to watch close. This is the slow-mo version someone put on Twitter.
Woo.
Let's watch that one more time.
Now, that's where you got to watch it. Because I think it's her right leg, right? Her right knee.
Yeah.
She lands wrong, and the knee goes in and the foot goes out. And that is I've had it happen to me. That is a painful injury. And I think it's going to take more than just soaking it in cold water that's going to fix it. I think, have you heard it? She has to have surgery on this, right?
Yeah, that's terrible. Do you know what? I know it sounds crazy, but it almost looks like she's dislocated her leg from her pelvis there, the way she landed.
Oh, man.
There we go.
And it's hard to see it here. Right there. Boom. And she's hurting right there. And when it hurts, right when it happens, later on, about 6 hours later, it's going to be throbbing. She had to go to the hospital right away with this, I would think.
Yeah, I think she tried to continue the match. She immediately couldn't do it. One of the people outside, whether it was the doctor, actually scooped her up and carried her to the back. So that was a tremendously bad injury. But as far as
that was on tape, them scooping her up and rushing her to the back.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it was on tape, but I might have been. I think it may have been, or just in the corner, from the hard cam, you could see that. Or, unless that was a fan cam that caught that, I can't. But I have seen it. But yeah, that was.
And her name is Zoey.
Zoey
right?
Starks, yeah.
I used to have a puppy dog. I just thought named Zoey. Cute little dog, and I kind of like the name anyway. But Miss Starks, my well wishes are with you. Hope you're not in pain, and hope you get well soon and come back to the sport that you're very good at, by the way.
Do you know what went wrong there? Because there was actually a timing issue originally. And I think Zoey, what she was doing was, because her opponent had turned round a bit too late, and so Zoey was doing like a springboard dive onto her opponent. I should have seen it. I have watched her on. I can't remember who it was.
I thought she was doing a drop kick. That's what it would look like.
Something like that. But I think because her opponent was a bit far away, she tried to adjust in midair, and then just her feet went from under it.
Well, there's no way to adjust once you're in the air. You can turn, but you can't position. The adjustment has to be done by who was she with? Who was the girl?
I'm just going to say, in fact, just one sec. Yeah, sorry. I thought it was Kerry Sane, but I didn't want to say it. So it was a qualifying match, three-way qualifying match with Zoey Stark, Rhea Ripley, and the returning Kerry Sane, all vying for a spot for the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match on June 7th. As the Stark landed awkwardly on her leg after a springboard dropkick and was removed from the match through injury. Dave Meltzer has now addressed the original plans for the match and how Zoey Stark would have played into proceedings. So essentially, for the rest of the match, they had to basically ad-lib to get to the end, because this was not towards the end.
Oh, my God. Listen, for them telling them they would have to ad-lib, That's what wrestlers have done for years and years and years. Now, say 20 years ago, 10 years ago, we would go into the ring. We didn't go over every single move that we were going to do. We were saying, well, here's a general layout, boom, de boom. And I've heard guys give a finish like this. Who did I hear do this one time? Oh, he got the guy in front of him and he said, okay, we start out boom, 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 and then boom, boom, and then boom, de boom, 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 go on. And I heard that and I went, wow, what a finish. I got to watch this. And I asked him later, I said, what does the boom, 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 de boom, go home do? He said, hey, we've done this 1,000 times, 100 times anyway. He said, we know what to do. I'm just laying it out for him just so we can both say we went through with it. And that's what they would do. Sometimes guys didn't even have to tell the other guy what to do. They had done it so many times before that they knew it was a natural call just to go to this move. And they didn't even call it. Sometimes guys wouldn't even have to say anything in the ring. They knew what to do. But I don't know how many of the new guys can do that, because it took me, and that's what the purpose is, older guys in the business taking these guys in the ring. Now, the match may not be real exciting, but the green guy, or the guy with less experience, is learning what to do, what not to do, when to do it, when not to do it, and he's learning timing. And I heard one time a guy told me, he said, it takes you 5 years to learn what to do in this business. And I'm thinking, oh, crap, it don't take 5 years, but it does. It takes to be really confident that you're going to get it right. Of course, I disagreed with what he was saying then, because, I was young and dumb and that other part of it. But yeah, it takes a while. And then when you get in the ring, like when first time I got in the ring with Harley Race, he was so slow and so just like 1, 2, 3, 4. But what and Dory Funk Sr. too, Dory Funk Jr., they would take their time, because we had 30 minutes, 40 minutes. So instead of blowing it out early, we would just take our time, and they slowly showed me that if you take your time, build the story, because they're already there, and you can take them on the ride, and they'll enjoy it, and they will remember it. And they did, or some of them did anyway. I did.
Well, it's a good point you make, Dutch, because there is a virtue in not planning out everything in advance, and pretty much everything these days is planned out in advance. So when something like this happens, an unexpected injury where they can't continue, and especially when it's a three-way match where you can't just stop the match, you have to continue because there's still two, viable participants. It's tough when everything is pre-planned and then you just have to muddle your way through it, because, as I say, Kairi Sane wasn't meant to lose, because she's just returned. Zoey Stark was the one who was meant to be pinned by Rhea Ripley, so they basically just had to just wing it for a few minutes and hope for the best. WWE, by the way, has already edited out that footage from the Netflix show, which makes no sense to me, because it's like, well, it happened. Why are you trying to cut out all the mistakes? No one cares. In fact, more people want to watch it.
James, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Are you employed by WWE?
No.
Then it really doesn't matter what they do. But if it's a three-way and she was supposed to lose and all of a sudden she's gone, now that they're calling it on the fly, and they could have. What was the finish for that match?
I think Rhea pinned Kairi Sane. Have you ever panicked in a match where you had like a rough idea of where it was going to go, and then you were thrown for a loop and you maybe even didn't quite know what to do at all? Did you ever have any moments like that?
Not really, because it wasn't, hey, if you made a mistake, you made a mistake. That's it. No way to take it. We didn't take it back to the editing room and take this out and take that, because that cost money. And what they would scream at you for is costing them money. Because if you got to go to a studio, you're paying, back in those days, $200 an hour for an editing room, and they didn't want to pay. I don't blame them. So if you mess it up, you better keep it rolling, and you better make up something that's good. Or guess what? You might be looking for another job here pretty soon.
Mm-hmm. So once again, Zoey Stark, best wishes to her, because I mean, I know what a horrible knee injury is like.
What is her prognosis? You like that word?
I do, but I haven't got one for you because there is no announcement yet. Yeah, it only happened last night.
What the hell is Dave Meltzer? What is he worth? I mean, why don't he do this for us? That's his job, right? To find out these things.
Yeah, it's actually probably going to be WWE who will announce it, or Zoey who will announce it. But yeah, it didn't look good. Didn't look good at all. Well, so we'll see.
I hope she's okay. Those girls work hard.
Yeah, absolutely. Next on the agenda, Batista, WWE versus Hollywood. So, recently, while promoting his upcoming film In the Lost Land with Film Inside, the former WWE World Champion compared the grinds between WWE and Hollywood. This is from Inside the Ropes, by the way, the writing up. Terming the pro wrestling career as a hard grind, the MCU actor justified his claim with a valid answer. Here's the quote. I have a strong work ethic, and my work ethic really came from the WWE. If nothing else, they're not only durable people, but it's just the hardest grind that I could ever imagine. Being in Hollywood and being on a film set, it's long hours, but compared to the grind of being a professional wrestler, it's just a cakewalk. I mean, it's night and day. I'm in this business, and I find it hard to relate to people who are always unhappy on set and always complaining about something. I don't relate to that at all. He said something else at the end, so I'll mention that later. But before, I mean, we talked about the grind, obviously, that you went through, and it obviously depended on which territory as well. But have you ever been on a film set?
Briefly, maybe half a day. But that's more boring than it is anything. Once you know your part, I mean, unless it's a speaking part, you kind of got it. But let me tell Mr. Dave something. What WWE did was, I mean, the travel today is nowhere close. In wrestling, I'm talking about. The travel today is nowhere close to what it used to be. You know, when they still have the territories, and I'm going back to the territories, this is years and years and years ago. I have been in some places like Mid-South, you know, the Bill Watts territory. You work 7 days a week, 7 days. You didn't have a day off. So, and then you would go to New Orleans, all the way to Oklahoma. That's like 500 miles one way from New Orleans. And people lived we all lived in the middle of Louisiana because it was more centrally located. But man, those trips would kill you. Then when I got to WWE, the guys were bitching about flying so much. Well, at least it got them to the town, and they didn't have to spend it on the road, and they could sleep a little bit, maybe.
But flying is more exhausting. Do you not find that?
What's that, flying?
Yeah, I always find flying really exhausting. Did you not find that when in WWE? Or?
Well, it can be because, it's according to what kind of... Let me say a guy that it didn't bother him, I don't think, was Barry Horowitz. He could sleep, and he could lay his head down and be asleep in like 2 minutes. So, and he would go to bed at night. See, the thing with wrestlers is they want to stay up and party. They want to go here and they want to go there, and say they got a 10 o'clock flight. Hell, they got to get up at like 7 to get ready to have breakfast and then get to the airport. An hour before it takes off. Yeah. And they've stayed out till 4 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, they're tired. But they would be more tired if they had to drive and sit in the car with 3 other guys or 2 other guys or drive themselves. But the travel today is nothing like it used to be. So I think what Dave is trying to say, he'd rather be on a movie set. Yeah, it's long, and you got to wait around a long time, but it's still not as bad as traveling and flying and doing all these shows and physically performing. So he makes a good point there.
You ever known any actors as friends?
Well, not that I remember, but
boring people.
I met them. But were they friends? No, they were associates.
Yeah, I think WWE's for I don't think people appreciate, I guess. I mean, even I know the road travel schedules that you went through, obviously, and even I can't fully appreciate just how difficult that grind is by just always being on the road. I mean, especially in the 80s and beforehand. I mean, didn't you say 60-odd days once in a row for WCW?
Like 63 days before I went home. And I had to beg for that day. And I went, guys, I got a life. I got a house. I got a family. I got to get back sometime. And this was for WCW. You would do TVs on, I think, Mondays and Tuesdays, I think. So you had to be there for the TV. Then on Wednesday morning, Atlanta International, flying somewhere. And then you get off the plane. First thing you go to the rent-a-car companies, get you a car, take off. And then according to where the town was, if the town was that night, you'd go get a hotel and, maybe try to sleep an hour, then go to the arena and do your show and come back. And then according to where you were the next day, sometimes you would stay there that night, or sometimes you would wait and drive to the next town and get a room there. But it always changed. Nothing was ever set in stone, but it wore your butt out.
And do you know what else as well? Is that actors don't have to book their own accommodation and book their own car rentals and everything.
Yeah, the wrestlers had to book their own cars, most of them. Now they paid for the production people. They paid for the cameramen. They paid for, all the people putting up the lights and setting up. They would pay that. But the wrestlers didn't get paid for. You had to pay it yourself. I mean, it's tax deductible at the end of the year, but in July, who cares about the end of the year? You're trying to get through that day. So, but my last run there, they did pay for everything. They paid car, hotel, food, because I don't think I was listed as it's according to how they list you too. I was a manager, so they didn't really list me as the same as talent. I think I was listed as more as like the setup crew, I guess, but I made decent money, good money, and all I had to do was walk Jack Swagger to the ring. And then I would just turn it in every month, and they'd send me a check.
Did you find it more difficult to travel in, because you were in your early 60s when you were Zeb Coulter? Was it more difficult to travel then, or were you just institutionalized at that point and you were just used to it?
I was used to it by then. It's one of those things. If you want to pay your bills, you got to do it. And that was the period that all the territories had died. See, in my upcoming book, I have a chapter about this, and when all the territories died, all the wrestlers were thinking like, well, what are we going to do now? Because we weren't really trained for any other job except wrestling. And it's hard to go into a place and say, oh, yeah, I used to be a wrestler. They look at you like, what the hell are you doing here then? And if I had to do that, I would ask myself too. But it was tough on wrestlers when the territories closed up. And who do we thank for that? We thank Vince McMahon. He had a good plan, but the plan only worked for him and his company. He didn't care about anybody else's company. He didn't care about anybody else supporting their family or nothing. And I don't blame him, because I don't think when you start a business, you need to worry about other people. But still, he put a lot of people out of business and cost a lot of people a lot of money.
I'll give you one more quote from Dave Batista. I grew up with not much, and I'm always grateful for everything I have, and I really didn't make a dime until I was in my mid-30s, so I remember what it's like to not have anything. So I'm grateful for what I have, but also with my work ethic, I don't feel like this is a constant grind. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to have opportunities. I'm grateful to be in this business. I'm grateful to be able to do what I love. I was a very developed adult before I even got into this, which I think is very important as well. I mean, if if you go into something as 18 and you just sort of expect, everything sort of handed to you, you react to things a lot more differently as well. But
okay.
Yeah.
His last comment, was he talking about the movie business or the wrestling business?
He was talking about the film business, the movie business, where he was saying, basically, he's just saying, compared to wrestling, it's easy, and I get paid a lot of money, and I'm not ungrateful for it.
Yeah, well, I commend him for that. Yeah. But he can also thank wrestling for putting him on this radar, because they didn't pick him off just an 8x10 he sent in to a talent scout. They looked at him on screen and said, man, he's a good looking character. We could use him. And through wrestling, he got his film career. Mm-hmm. And like The Rock, same thing. And anybody else that went into the movies, they can thank wrestling for giving them that, the potential to be exposed to a multitude of people. And in that multitude of people were directors and writers, and, they may even have something in mind for him. So it gave them the exposure that they needed to be successful.
And also with wrestling, especially in WWE at the time and now, is that Raw and SmackDown tapings are still very long, and you've got to get there very early, and you may have to learn lines, and you've got to improv. So there's that kind of learning what you have to do that night, plus hours of boredom to deal with. So it's at times, I imagine, it's quite similar to a Hollywood set.
Okay, well, I think a lot of that learning, that's what they told me when I first got to WWE. You got to learn this word by word. Well, immediately right there, I says, I'm not learning it word by word. I can't do that. I said, I'm going to take the general feel of it. And wait a minute, now keep this in mind. I didn't tell them that, but I said to myself, listen, you're not going to learn this word for word. You're going to go out there and you're going to deliver it with some conviction, like you believe it. Because if you talk a certain way, that's the writer talking. That's not you talking. And I told him that one time. I said, that's a good idea. And those writers would do anything except take it in front of Vince. So if you didn't like something they had written down, you say, hey, Sasquatch, come here, whatever his name was. And I said, I wouldn't say it. I said, Zeb Coulter wouldn't say this. Well, why wouldn't he say it? I said, because he just wouldn't. That's not in his character to say that. And they said, well, I want you to say it. I said, well, I'll tell you what. Let's take it in front of Vince. Okay. What do you want to say? And I tell them, they say, okay, say that. Because they would rather take an ass whipping at sunup or a bull whipping at sunup than take something in front of Vince. Because Vince is going to say, I think Vince most of the time would side with the talent, especially with the experience I had. He would side with me because he knows I've been in 1,000 interviews and I know exactly what the people understand and won't understand. So anyway, that's the way I got by a lot of that stuff, and it worked for me.
Okay, Dutch, just before we get to our next story, you've got something important you want to say.
Yeah, before we go to another interesting subject that I'm dying to talk about, let's take a minute out of your time and let's talk about one of our sponsors, Blue Chew. You all know what Blue Chew can do for you in the bedroom, but Blue Chew now has a new combo so strong the neighbors will be hearing you for miles around. Blue Chew Max combines the active ingredients of Viagra and Cialis into one chewable. This combo acts fast and lasts a good long time. Just by heading to BlueChew.com. Once you're approved by a licensed medical provider, you'll receive your prescription in days. No embarrassing visits to the doctor, no lining up at the pharmacy. It's all done online. So don't miss out on the best time in the bedroom or wherever you get up to your personal private affairs. Boost your confidence and boost your performance. Make life easier by getting harder and discover your options at BlueChew.com. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try your first month of Blue Chew free when you use promo code Dutch. Just pay $5 shipping. That's promo code Dutch. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast.
Okay, we're back, and next on the agenda we're going to be talking about is CM Punk. Is CM Punk a hypocrite, Dutch? So, CM Punk has spoken out on previous comments he made about Saudi Arabia, amid rumours he may be appearing at a WWE event in the country for the first time in his career. So, during the WWE Backlash pay-per-view, it was intimated, Dutch, that CM Punk may be in Saudi Arabia.
Intimated, like highly suggestive.
Yes, suggested that CM Punk may well be there. June 28th, Night of Champions. That's, I was going to say pay-per-view, but premium live event, whatever you want to call it. He's seen in the advert. Anyway, back in 2020, The Miz said something to CM Punk, and CM Punk took umbrage. Another word you might like, Dutch, if you like umbrage.
I do like that.
So here is CM Punk's response to The Miz back in 2020. Go suck a blood money covered dick in Saudi Arabia, you effing dork.
Now, can we say that on this podcast?
What, dork?
No, the other part.
Effing?
Okay, so there's some heat between those two guys.
Well, apparently so.
They were then.
So anyway, CM Punk was criticising The Miz for taking money for going to Saudi Arabian events. Now, The Miz apparently went on to say that he and Punk buried the hatchet when CM Punk got back to WWE. But that point is that in 2020, it was an insult and an issue to go to Saudi Arabia for CM Punk. Now in 2025, he may be appearing. What do you make of that?
Okay, why was it an issue with CM Punk back in those days? Because it was an issue with Sami Zayn, too, and a few other people.
Yes, I believe for Saudi Arabia's human rights violations and, all that kind of thing.
But what did CM Punk give a crap about human rights for?
I don't know. He does. Or did.
I have no idea. But anyway, hey, who knows? Something else could have happened between these guys along the way, and that if they wanted us to know, they would share it with us, I'm sure. But so if Punk wants to go and they're paying him enough money to send him over there and he'll agree to go, yeah, fine, go. But good luck, guys. So, but that Saudi Arabian tour, it just reading about it is kind of odd because you're in a totally different environment, totally different. Nothing like the U.S. You walk down the streets and nobody's on the streets and it's hot as hell. And so it's almost like being in a dream, I guess. I've heard some guys saying, you look up and, everything is gold everywhere. And it's just unreal sometimes. So I hope he goes. And I think by this time, everybody in Saudi Arabia, they have computers too, so they can read about all this stuff. And I think he'll be over like Flynn, as they say, when he gets there. So I think he'll have a big rousing reception.
So during an Instagram live session, CM Punk was asked why he hates coming to Saudi Arabia, but CM Punk responded...
Yeah, he's never been.
Well, that's the point. He says, I don't hate coming to Saudi. I've never been to Saudi, is what he said. So, in 2020, he described taking the money to appear on WWE Saudi Arabia shows. He described it as blood money in 2020. If he appears in 2025, does that make him a hypocrite?
It's just a business decision. Business decisions are made and changed and flip-flopped on every day. So if it's in his contract that he needs to go, he needs to go. And I wouldn't hold that against him because CM Punk, if he felt this way at one point in his life, and then now all of a sudden his situation changes, and he goes, I don't hold anything against him for that.
I don't think they can force talent, but it might be like the tribute to the troops thing where they really try and press you to go.
Well, it's up to him whether he gives into it or not.
Next on the agenda, MJF finally a part of the Hurt Syndicate. So back to AEW, we'll say back to, we've not talked about him yet, AEW. So MJF already had MVP's approval, and then Shelton Benjamin was on board with MJF joining the Hurt Syndicate, but then Bobby Lashley was the one holding out, and he told MJF a couple of weeks ago that MJF needed to hurt somebody first to impress Bobby Lashley. You've watched the segments from the last few weeks, so what did we see since? How were they executed, and did you like them?
This is actually the first time that I've actually been interested in something in AEW. Because what have I said time and time and time again? Story. And they started telling a story. I went, my God, they must be listening to the show. They're telling a story and not getting in a hurry about it. Because usually they'd already locked up and beat the hell out of each other and then put damn MJF in the hospital and then forget to book it. But now he wants to get in, and I think he would be. They're working a hell of a. I think it's a very, very improved segment with MJF and the Hurt Business. Very good, and when I'm interested in it, it has some. To me, it has some. It has some walking room, because those guys with him, they just have, to me, magnetism. I think they fit together. And anytime when you know a turn is coming and they're leading up to it and leading up to it and leading up to it. And they got some money with that, I think, if they don't get in a hurry and blow it off too soon. So, but I'm thinking, where did that idea come from? Do you think that's a Tony Khan idea?
I'm sort of guessing not, because I think it's very WWE-esque, this, and they've dragged it out in a good way. It's like it's one segment per Dynamite for 6 weeks or something like that. It's been going on now, and it's progressed every single week. You know the motivations of everybody. It develops week on week, and then this coming AEW Dynamite, there will be the contract signing for MJF to officially become a member of the Hurt Syndicate, which, as we're recording this now, we don't know if he actually signs or not, or what happens from there. What would you do?
Okay. I think where this come from. I think it come from Sanjay Dutt. That's what I'm going to say.
Okay.
Because he was pretty good at telling a story. And I think when we had him in TNA, I think Jeff and I kind of indoctrinated him with tell the story, and then it'll tell you where to go. So now if I'm watching the story and he's going to sign the contract now, I'm saying, okay, if something's going to happen, it's going to happen here. But guess what? I don't think it will happen there. But my expectations that something is going to happen there gets me to tune in and watch it. So that takes me another week. And so I think he'll sign and he'll get with them, and they will continue to tell the story. Now they'll start having matches, and he's one of them. And I think he'll start acting like them, and they'll have another big fallout. And they can still, what's their next pay-per-view? Do they do one a month too?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
But
it's
I
like
think
9 a year or something.
But I think they will take it a little farther before they bust the nut on it, and then they'll go. But I'm enjoying the story. I'm enjoying the story as it's progressing now. So instead of all of a sudden, okay, let's go ahead and bust the angle. Let it go as far as you think it can go. And then now the people are thinking the same thing. I mean, these people are not stupid. It's just something's got to happen here, and kind of surprise them there. That's when you got business.
They've got a pay-per-view this weekend. No idea.
They do have,
still no main event announced, as far as I can tell, but it'll be revealed, I'm sure, this Wednesday.
They have a pay-per-view this weekend.
I don't. So at least we'll have some news.
Where are they going to sign the papers to join each other?
Dynamite. So as this show comes out today, or as we're recording this tomorrow.
Okay.
So we'll see.
that would be one segment that I'd be interested in. And there's a couple of ways to go that will help it. He can either sign or not sign. I don't think it hurts the angle at all. Or they could go ahead and, I don't think they need to bust the angle yet.
Well, how did he get through it then? How did he get through without signing a contract, or what? Would you just have MJF join? And
no, I'd have him join. And then who knows? It's whoever is the author of the Hurt Business and MJF, whoever's the writer or the author of that, he's got to run it by Tony, I'm sure. But I'd have MJF go in there and he start acting like them and start trying to take over. And, they have and then you could take that for a while. They're going to turn on him, or he's going to turn on them or something. But see, that's the mind of the wrestling fan. They don't know either. I don't know. That's why I'm interested in it. So I want to see if they can do a good enough job with it to keep me interested.
Yeah, I think it's the first time that MJF has done anything. I say done anything. It's not his fault. He's just had crappy creative for about a year now, since almost. Since
how long has he been doing this angle?
Oh, this has been about 6 weeks or something like that. But like for a year, for the most part, pretty much everything he's done, and it's not his fault. Has been.
Well, they told him to hurt somebody. They told him. They said that he hasn't hurt anyone. Mm-hmm. So he went out there and he beat up two guys. I don't know who they are.
Oh, well, you do know who they are. One of them is Dante Martin, the guy who smashed his ankle.
He broke his leg, his ankle, whatever he broke. Yeah, that was a year ago, wasn't it?
It was longer. That was longer, yeah.
Well, at least he's back. So anyway, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I want to mention something else as well. It's like, once again, MJF has been handed fairly bad creative over this past year, but this is the first thing that's actually good. Since the middle of 2024, I guess, that's actually holding people's attention. And the ratings are really good for every segment as well. But I wanted to mention something else as well, is that Jeff Jarrett recently, because MJF and Jeff Jarrett had like one or two segments facing off against each other at the beginning of the year, and then it just petered out and nothing really happened from it. And even Jeff's...
Who was this, Jeff and who?
MJF.
Yeah. And what happened there?
Well, nothing really. It just sort of just died out, and then MJF went and did something else. Jeff Jarrett said that angle actually hurt him.
The angle with MJF?
Yeah, because they never followed through with it.
I'm sure
there
it did.
Wasn't that interest.
I'm sure it did. So he's got his fans out there, and all of a sudden they do something with it, and all of a sudden drop it. I don't think it hurt him personally, but I think it kind of hurt the company a little bit, I think, because when you build somebody's expectations up and all of a sudden you just drop it, people wonder, what the hell happened here? So, and I guess Jeff could claim it hurt him a little bit. May it did.
More AEW news. Darby Allin finally climbs Mount Everest. He was meant to have done this over a year ago.
Thank God he's got on top of that mountain. Damn, he's been climbing it since the damn Kennedy days.
We've heard about this for a while, haven't we, Dodge?
Oh, yeah, forever.
So, he tweeted this out, I don't know, a day or two ago. I didn't put the date down, but 8:50 a.m. local time. Summit. Good weather was in our favour, but many teams took advantage of the short window as well, which slowed our progress more than expected. Darby Allin, USA. Then he just tells other people. But the thing is, he was actually with a lot of people who have climbed. He had a great team around him, because of the other people who he climbed with, one of them climbed, that was his 24th summit. Another one was...
I saw that.
Yeah, 14th, 12th, and 2nd.
Yeah.
So he was with a bunch of veterans, basically, to get him up there.
Well, I'm glad he got up there. So now he's turned around. He's coming back.
He is skateboarding down.
That'd be a good one. Or he could take the deal where they fly down and he just flies all the way. It won't take him forever.
No.
So how tall is, or how high up is Mount Everest? 20,000?
I'll find out 1 second. It is 29,000 feet.
Wow. You can't breathe at 29,000 feet.
No, that'd be my biggest worry, apart from the cold and everything, is, how thin the air is.
Well, can you take enough air for 29,000 feet for a day?
I guess so. You've got your oxygen bottles and that kind of thing, I guess.
Hey, what it don't have? What if it doesn't have any? You're screwed.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it.
Have you ever wrestled?
Take a helicopter and lower me on top of Mount Everest. I'd be fighting you tooth and nail.
Have you ever wrestled in a city where it's like Denver or something like that, where it's really elevated and like the air's really thin?
Yeah, but it didn't bother me. I heard other guys saying that the elevation bothered them. It didn't bother me.
Yeah.
Of course, I just stood up there in the corner anyway, and I didn't do much. So I because they say, why didn't you do much? I said, hey, you want me to die? The oxygen level is decreased here, and I can't go out there and do that stuff. So, yeah, but in Denver, it's that way. But you can feel it just, getting off the plane.
Mm.
That the oxygen is lower.
Call me old-fashioned here.
Okay, old-fashioned.
Darby Allin hasn't been on AEW television since December of last year.
Yep.
Would it, if you were the boss of AEW, if you were Dutch Khan, would you give one of your independent contractors 5 months off to do a mountain climb?
Well, I hope he did a bunch of damn. He did a bunch of videos on the way up, and he did it at the top. He'd have to do that, and he's at the top of the world, and he plants the flag. Did he plant the AEW flag?
I believe he did, yes.
See? And I didn't even know they would even do that. That just popped in my head.
No,
he did
plant
the flag, and it needs to put a picture of Tony Khan on it. Leave it there, of course. Of course, the next people up there, they're going to throw it away. But how many people climb Mount Everest every year?
Oh, thousands and thousands. Apparently 2/3 of people who attempt it make it, 1/3 don't. But it's still, you're still taking your life into your hands. I think with climbing Everest, there are different routes as well. So depending on how much of a challenge you want, I guess, you can take more difficult routes or less difficult routes, as it were, as well.
What if you got up there and there's another group that has just landed and they're taking their time and drinking the wine and the champagne? And after a while, you'd say, come on, you ass butts. Get out of there. I got to get up there. I can't say I climbed Mount Everest. Then you have a big fight. Hey, that'd make big news, wouldn't it? A big news, a big story about two groups getting into fight on top of Mount Everest. It's never happened before. That's a good movie too, by the way.
Yeah, but here's the thing, it actually happened. But many teams took advantage of the short window of good weather, which slowed our progress more than expected. So there's just lines of groups going up there.
Oh yeah, they're stacked up. So when you get up there, how big is the spot where you can say you're at the top?
I mean, there's got to be like a pinprick size bit where that's the actual tippy top. But...
you don't have a little mount coming up and stick the flag down in. Like, is it kind of flat up there where you can get like 30, 40 people?
I guess so. But I mean, have you ever been to like a tourist spot, Dutch? And there's just tons of tourists everywhere else. So you try and do your best to get a photo and crop everybody else out.
Yes, I have done that.
Yeah, did that at Fountain in Rome once. That was the absolute worst.
Yeah.
honestly, like we managed to get it just briefly where it looked like there was no one around me, and then I took a photo the other way around. There were hundreds of people. So yeah.
See, that's what you have photography experts for. You said take this background out and just leave me in it.
Yeah. In fact, just take a photo of me with a green screen behind, and then just Photoshop. That's
all you got to do, really, because a lot of people would never know. And what if Darby Allin did that? He took a picture of a green screen with the flag sitting there, and he's just sitting there by himself.
What, and five months being paid to sit at home?
You think people would buy that?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, they would. I would. Because, well, congratulations to Mr. Allin for making his trek, Trek, his trek successful. And good. And when I first heard this, I said, that's a new one. but at least he did it, and my congratulations to him.
Do you think AEW is paying him this entire time, or do you think like they
paid him.
Yeah, but froze his contract maybe and said, "Well, freeze your contract for 5 months so you can train."
Well, contracts don't mean nothing. They're gonna pay him anyway. Why would they freeze his contract?
Because he's not working.
And the point you're making?
Well, why would you pay someone 5 months to do a Mount Everest climb?
Well, I don't know. Ask Tony Khan.
I guess so. We need to figure that one out. I've got a Mount Everest story for you, Dutch.
I want to hear it right now.
Right, so there's an actor called Brian Blessed. He's very famous in this country. He was in Flash Gordon and a million other things. Z cards, I suppose, if you're of a certain vintage in this country. Anyway, he's the world's greatest living actor. And he's also the world's greatest living audiobook reader as well. So he's climbed Mount Everest. I think he may be one of the oldest, if not the oldest person to ever climb Mount Everest. And he said he's done it several times. And he said he was in one of these tents where basically you nail it onto the side of the mountain, and you're just dangling, right? And he was in a tent with 4 other people, and he said one of the party needed to go number 2. So he said, just do it outside and, have at it, let it rip. So this fella did, but there was like a wind gust, happening. He was very, very tumultuous over there. So he did his business, came back into the tent, and he was talking for a couple of minutes with everybody else, and they all started smelling a poo. And then they turn around and see the guy who just went outside and let a rip, and found that the turd that he'd done had somehow dropped down. The wind had caught it. No, the wind had caught it, and then plopped it on his shoulder.
Well,
so basically, he just had a turd on his shoulder. A fresh one.
They made a story of that called "The Luck of Mount Everest."
Sorry, Dutch Mantell.
I never heard that one. The rest of the night, listen. Would you feel safe nailing yourself up in one of those? I've seen one. It just hangs up by the side of the mountain, right?
Yeah, no, of course I wouldn't.
I wouldn't do that.
Right, we have.
I would like to say one thing. I attempted to climb Mount Everest, which wouldn't be a lie. I could attempt it, but I don't think I could ever make it. Even back when I was young, I'd be too scared.
Would you start crawling from North Carolina on the floor and then think that's too difficult?
I wouldn't be crawling. I'd be begging, please don't make me go over that mountain.
One more bit of AEW news. AEW Collision's major technical issues. So I don't know if you heard about this, Dutchman, but fans were left confused after the most recent episode of AEW Collision Beach Break, scheduled to go on for around 120 minutes. The show ended after just 90. The streaming of the show on Max was met with the message of those who were watching on Max, this event has ended. However, it wasn't as confusing as it was for those watching TNT, because following AEW Collision's abrupt ending, The Rock's movie, Black Adam, started airing. In light of all this, Tony Khan sent out a message on X apologising for the situation and revealed that there were transmission issues that affected the broadcast. Here's the quote. There are ongoing transmission issues on tonight's Saturday AEW Collision, so I am sorry. We are expecting a full version to play on TNT Drama West, but right now an ongoing technical issue that all believed to be fixed is still affecting the transmission of the final half hour, even on TNT West. So the East Coast version went wrong, the Max version went wrong, the West Coast version went wrong, and there is still no full version of AEW Collision from this Saturday available. This is the worst technical issue in wrestling history of a mainstream company.
But what can you do about it? Nothing. It happened, so that's live TV for you. And they're on streaming now, right?
Yeah, Max, yeah.
Well, folks, that happens. I'm sorry, but there's no complete video of it.
Not available, no. Not available at the moment. And any complete video is really janky and just terrible situation all around, really.
All I can say, folks, is, sometimes you take wrestling as it is, and sometimes things happen unfixable. But at least Tony Khan come out there and he said, hey, we're sorry. He said, not our fault, right? That's not his fault. It's not. That's the streaming company. So blame them.
We shall move on. AEW once again. Will Ospreay. Now, this quote caused quite a bit of controversy, Dutch. Do you know what it is?
Yeah, I've read it.
Okay.
I read the whole thing.
Oh, well, you tell us what it is then.
No, you tell me.
Okay. During an interview with the Daily Star, Will Ospreay was asked if there was
the Daily Star is what?
Newspaper in the UK.
Yeah.
A tabloid.
A daily?
Yeah. I'd hope so. With daily in it. So, if there's respect between AEW and WWE stars, or if it's more of a rivalry. He said, I think it's a bit of both, to be honest with you. I think deep down we know WWE is a machine, it's an animal. They're in giant stadiums and they're doing so good, but a lot of people look at us and just say, we're doing it wrong because WWE are doing this. I believe look at us, he means AEW. No, there are different ways of doing it. I got into WWE when I was a kid, but when I became a teenager, I just thought it was lame. There were certain guys I enjoyed. Eddie Guerrero was one, Edge was another, Randy Orton. But after a while, I was just like, it's so pantomiming, I'm bored. It's the same stuff. It's recycled, and it's over and over again. And every now and again, you'd get something cool, like the CM Punk Pipe Bomb promo. Every now and again, you'd get something like something good. And WWE are on fire now, but I still, not only as a viewer, just as a viewer, but as a wrestler, I just don't enjoy it. Now, I want to get to the main quote where he basically says, throughout this, he says, AEW does everything better than WWE as well. So what do you make of all that?
Well, that's good for Tony Khan to read. That's great for him. And do I agree with him on some things? I do. But let me tell, Ospreay is not doing the same type of professional wrestling that the rest of the crew is doing. He's doing that. Don't sell nothing. Get up, move as quick as you can. Boom, 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 which is fine. How old is Will Ospreay?
Younger than me, early 30s, I think.
Well, he's still young. So when you train people when people start liking your style, when the next people come along that they don't do what you're doing, people are going to say, oh, that's boring. You know, you're doing harm without realizing you're doing harm because the guys can't do the same stuff you do. So, and I want you, if you're in your early 30s, when you get to your 40s, if you can still be doing that stuff, more power to you. But it's not the moves that draw money. It's the story, as we just witnessed with MJF and Hurt Business. I don't care what kind of moves they do. It's the thought that a long story like that the people would look forward to. Yeah, and I think he'd do a lot better. And I don't think that AEW does a better wrestling show than WWE. I just don't, because WWE, they're their industry standard. So we just said that their stream was busted this last weekend or whenever it was. You don't see that with WWE, do you?
No, very rarely.
That's what I'm saying. So, and that's his opinion, and he's entitled to his opinion. And but by and large, I think if he would slow down, and if he would have the same writer that did the Hurt Business and the MJF segments, if he had the same writer or two writers or how many's doing it, slowing it down so he's telling a story, he'd do a lot better. Plus, it would do him good because he could save his body and actually extend his career, because he's going to get hurt somewhere, sometime doing this. And see, when he makes these shows, they fly him every week from the UK to the States.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, and to me, I see him, his stuff is tremendous, but I wouldn't walk across the street to see him. I really wouldn't, because the story is not there. The character is not there. The subliminal message, whatever he's trying to send, I don't connect with. So you got to connect me somehow to you, or to a story, or to a scenario that I want you to win. And so far, you haven't done that. You're just doing move after move after move after move, and the other guy's doing move after move after move. And it's like watching gymnastics. Sequenced gymnastics is what it is. You like that word? I just made it up.
No, it's synchronized.
You agree with that or no?
Yeah, absolutely I do. Because, Will Ospreay's been out there for years. I mean, he's about the best high flyer in the business. He really is. But you're absolutely right. I mean, the quote here is, it's him describing WWE. It's the same stuff. It's recycled. And it's over and over again.
Okay, you tell me, what is not recycled?
Yeah.
What is not recycled? We only got so many things that we can do, but you can put different people in those positions, and that changes the dynamic of it. There's only so many plays you can run in football. It's the same play. A fullback up the middle. Okay, a flare pass out in the flat. Okay, the bomb. You only got so, but it's whether you can connect those things when the time is right. But and sometimes he goes in with some of these people that are far less than him, really, and he makes them look as good as he does.
But he shouldn't sometimes.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. He shouldn't do that, because how do we gauge greatness? Because if he's making them look as good as he's making them, and I'm sure he's not selfish, he'll make them look great, actually greater than what they need to look. But I mean, that's just if you think about it, I think I'm right. I think if he would just slow down, tell a story, and I'm not telling him to take his moves out or his spots out and do anything like that. Slow it down. But I don't think he'd like slowing it down. So he can do what he wants to do.
With WWE and AEW comparing the two, AEW do some things better, especially with the pacing of the shows, the TV shows, because this is my opinion. I mean, you tell me otherwise, I think. But, like for an AEW Dynamite, for example, they'll have like 7 or 8 matches, and they'll just get through it and just do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Whereas WWE these days are dragging so badly. They're having 4 or 5 matches per 2 hours or 3 hours or whatever it is. 5 matches in 3 hours.
This is what bothers me about WWE. It takes those guys a day and a half just to get to the ring. Mm-hmm. I think, guys, get in the ring and let's go. I mean, they're walking down, and especially, Seth Rollins, he's singing his song, and you've heard the song. You've heard it 1,000 times. Get in the ring and and look at the guy, and the guy looking at you, and let the people perceive that there is a pivotal moment coming up, and people are going to wait for that, and they got the announcers to do it. See, there's some things I would change about WWE, but their production doesn't need to be changed. It's their pacing needs to be changed.
I'm trying to find the exact quotes.
Let me ask you this: Has what was his name? Ricochet, as he went up against what's his name?
Ospreay.
Ospreay, have they had a match yet?
Yes, they have, and they did the exact same damn thing that they do in every other match they have ever had. They've got the same 1-minute sequence at the beginning that they do every single time, which is why I want to point out the irony that it's the same stuff, it's recycled, it's over and over. He does the same thing. I mean, everyone has to do the same thing to a point, because,
But he didn't bring that up, did he?
No, of course he didn't. Here's the thing, though. He's also an AEW...
You need to send him a message right now. Says, why did you do the same thing with Ricochet that you've done 10 other times? Why didn't you change that up?
Oh, because that would be against the narrative. That's why.
Well, you're going to do sometimes the things that people don't expect. But again, we go back to story, and we go back to the forethought, and we'll see where that gets you.
Next up, a fan goes too far with Saraya Page, the former Page. So while some wrestlers get stalked and others get trolled online, I've taken a lot of these from Inside the Ropes, by the way, as the write-ups, just to give them credit. Former All Elite Wrestling star Saraya recently revealed a situation with one fan that crossed all of the boundaries. So reflecting on this on Twitter, She wrote, "Crazy I have to say this, but if you come to my signings, please don't try to kiss me anywhere, especially on my mouth. He wasn't able to because I moved, but Jesus effing Christ." What is wrong with people, Dutch?
Well, I think fans should know better than to do that. But also, is she doing her own? Is anybody there with her to stop that stuff? She can stop it. He was right on top of her and tried to kiss her. And that's not right. I don't blame her for saying that. But fans, they need to have a little bit more respect than that, I would think. I used to have it happen to me all the time. These women,
people trying to kiss you.
Oh yeah, men too. That was really bad. So
imagine if they had a mustache as well.
That would be something, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you couldn't pull it. You probably entangle both of them. You could pull them away.
I think people need to come up there, get your autograph, and you speak with them about 30 seconds, and then they move on. But to intersperse in there a big long kiss, it's not going to fly.
Where do some of these people crawl out of, where they think, here's my chance, now I can essentially sexually assault this lady that I really like on TV?
Is that considered sexual assault?
I think these days it is, yes.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, hell, when I wrestled, I couldn't even get a handshake.
I thought you were going to say something else then, Dodge.
No, I couldn't even get a how you doing? But anyway, I agree. I agree with Paige on that.
Goodness.
How do you say her name? Saraya?
Saraya, yeah, that's her real name, Saraya. She wrestled under that name, her real name in AEW. Rhea Ripley also spoke out.
Let me ask you this just quickly. How did they find her? Didn't they have a movie or a special about her or something on TV? And she was found.
It was like a local television special here, documentary, when she was 18. I don't know if that may well have got a foot in the door with NXT, and then she was in NXT for a few years, and they made Fighting with My Family, which starred Nick Frost and a couple of other people. Oh, who's the really famous one? Florence Pugh was Paige in that as well. Anyway, apparently it was a good film.
Yep. Yeah, I like her. She was a good girl. I got along with her well.
Yeah. Rhea Ripley also spoke out last week regarding toxic fans. On 14th of May, Rhea Ripley took to social media to voice frustrations with a sect of those types, saying women's wrestling fan, quote, "Women deserve better," and then in the same breath they say, "She's sleeping with her boss, that's why she is where she is. She should retire. She doesn't deserve it. She's handed everything and never worked for anything. I hope she gets injured. You guys are the real reason it's difficult to be taken seriously as a woman's wrestler. If you put as much effort into your own miserable lives as you put into degrading successful women, then maybe you would accomplish something yourself."
Well, how does she know they have miserable lives?
Probably really enjoy trolling women.
That statement that Rhea Ripley made, when I first heard that years and years and years ago by a female wrestler, and she was bemoaning the fact that why do people feel that they have the liberty to really go beyond boundaries, and that they know you and they want to kiss you and they want to say things to you and they want to hug you in the wrong places and feel in the wrong places. That is not a new statement that Rhea made. I think she just got pissed off by it, some of the actions of the fans. But hey, you're in this business, so you either have to live with it or get away from it. So I think she would rather live with it than to get away from it, because she is over and she's doing well. But I don't think, I hate things like that happen, but they do. I'm sorry. Nothing I can do about it. Unless you hired me as your security supervisor, and then I'd beat the crap out of them.
Yeah. There was ones recently as well where there are apparently more people who people are buying tickets at the airport so they can bypass security, so therefore get to you right at your gate. Things like that. To try and get you to sign something or basically get in your face. It's there's just always going to be that certain subsect of either super fans who are crossing boundaries, or these professional fake fans that try and get you to sign 100 different things for their own profit.
So you're saying that, okay, the people know that you're coming into town, say, to have a show on Thursday.
Yeah.
So you probably come in on Wednesday. They buy a ticket that they don't intend to use.
Yeah, the cheapest flight ticket they can so they can get through, yeah.
And they'll go in and they can get in and they just sit down and wait for your flight to get there. They know what flight you're coming in on too. How do they find that out?
Well, they can just guess it. I mean, if they know where you were the day before,
yeah,
then they can work out from Cincinnati to Tampa or wherever.
Well, when I was there 10 years ago or more, when we would land, there'd be like 30 or 40 people there, or maybe more. And they would just like mob you. And finally, nobody, even me, they wanted my autograph. And I was saying, guys, leave me alone. I got to go. And I don't want to be rude to them, even though I'm a heel, because I don't think the people, they want you to sign something because then they can go online and sell it because it has an original signature on it. And it got out of hand for a while. And I see now they still haven't corrected it.
No, they should probably have some security, I guess, with them flying.
Well, they got security, but there's too many of them. You know what I mean?
Well, because everyone will be flying from different places as well, so you can't, have a handler for everybody.
Say they set up in D concourse and they know where this plane usually lands from a certain other place. And they'll just sit there and wait on you. And when it gets close to the time, they get more active and they wait for you to come off. And then I would always wait to the very back till all the other guys have gone. Then I'd go through.
You shouldn't do that, because I did that once. And then I kept getting pulled up for extra scanning and searches because he must assume I was smuggling drugs or whatever because I was the last person off the plane trying to look inconspicuous, apparently, according to these people.
Well, they took you off in cuffs, probably. And that would be a great picture of you signing something in handcuffs. I don't know how you get your hands around you like that, but if you could do and then put James Romero on it, that'd be worth some money.
Yeah. Screaming, Attica, Attica, that kind of thing.
The Toto song, love that song.
That's Africa.
That is Africa. What'd you say, though?
Attica.
Say it again.
Attica. Doesn't matter. We're going to move on. Hulk Hogan applying for Hooters trademark.
I love the story.
Is that on your bingo card, Dutch?
Yep. It is.
Right, okay. As per Business Insider, the WWE Hall of Famer's Real American Beer has plans to submit a bid for Hooters intellectual property. A successful bid would enable Hogan and Real American Beer to produce and distribute Hooters-branded food and beverages through Hooters restaurants, retail outlets, and entertainment and gaming venues. Under the proposed agreement, Real American Beer would sub-license the Hooters brand to the restaurants, as the Hulkster reportedly isn't interested in requiring or operating the restaurants. The bid requires the approval of the entities overseeing Hooters' bankruptcy proceedings, while the offer's financial details remain unspecified. It is confirmed to be an all-cash transaction. In March, Hooters of America, a co-operator of Hooters restaurants within the United States, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. The company's ownership is held by it's held by someone else. What do you think about that? Hulk Hogan buying Hooters?
Okay, intellectual property. What's that mean? The name?
Yeah, the name and the logos and that kind of thing.
And the format and all this?
Yeah.
Okay. And what about their buildings? What about the Hooters, their restaurants that are set up for Hooters? They going to buy those?
Who knows? I don't think so. I think he wants the branding and then maybe franchise them out. Who knows what he wants to do? But I mean,
I don't know what he wants to do either, but maybe he can make it go. What happened to Hooters? The pandemic kicked their butt.
Yeah, quite a lot of people suffered. I think I don't know. I don't know what happened to. We don't really have Hooters here. I've never been to one.
You never been to a Hooters?
No. Oh, I'm sorry, I have in Bangkok once.
You had to go to Bangkok. You don't have a Hooters in the UK?
We may have like a couple, but that's it.
But hey, if Hulk took it over, you would have one. Right there in Manchester. Would you go then?
Yeah. It depends on how attractive the waitresses were, of course.
See, things like that don't interest me. It's not around wrestling. It just Hogan's going to put his name to it, or he's going to be one of the chickens or something like that. I don't quite get it. But again, if he can do that, fine, more power to him.
Yeah, he. Do you think he'd look good in those hot pants?
He would look good in feathers. Feathers, he would.
Yeah.
And strutting, he's a good strutter, I think.
Next up, now this
you
is.
Think Jimmy Hart would have a slot in that organization?
Well, you dressed him as a chicken. No, you didn't dress him as a chicken. He dressed up as a chicken to call you a chicken.
Yeah, right. He dressed the chicken. I saw that the other day. I still laughed. It's so stupid. It's so stupid, and only one that could have done that is Jimmy Hart. It's funny. It really is. Hey, we could actually show that here.
We did. I think it's in the archives. Yeah, of you watching. Okay. That. Have you ever been to a Hooters for food? What's it like?
Yeah, I've been to Hooters. Oh yeah, food's not bad. I mean, it's not damn the greatest in the world, but it's tasty. It's good. But they have some really, of course, they live up to their marquee, the Hooters. But I've seen some waitresses in there. I wouldn't call them Hooters. I'd call them marbles. But anyway, I know what they attempted to portray, so I'll give them credit for that.
Moving on, Billy Jack Haynes, unfit to stand trial. So
Yeah, he's nuts. He's nuts.
Yeah, I don't know if you've been watching Dark Side of the Ring, this series. Have you?
No.
Billy Jack Haynes was interviewed from prison for an episode fought by Dark Side of the Ring people.
Oh, okay.
And basically, I'll just give you the story. It was recently reported that Haynes was set to stand trial in December of 2025, but now it's been reported that the 71-year-old has been found mentally unfit to stand trial. According to the reports, a judge ordered that Haynes be sent to the Oregon State Hospital as he's not fit to help with his own defense. A portion of the report reads, a report by a certified evaluator that looked at Haynes' behaviour at the hearing, statements from his attorneys and stipulations from both the defence and prosecutors stating that he's unfit. Even the prosecutors saying he's unfit, Dutch.
Well, he's in Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
What other movie was made about a mental hospital in Oregon?
You're not saying One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, because that wasn't in Oregon, was it?
Yes.
I thought it was like Massachusetts way, New England. Am I crazy there?
No, it was in Oregon.
Was it?
I'm pretty sure it was in Oregon.
Well, shut my mouth then.
So anybody write us and tell us who's right, me or James. Okay. But anyway, long ago, even before he showed any signs of mental illness, I knew he was nuts. Like one guy wanted to rib him one time, and he said, "Oh, I'm going to rib Billy Jack when he comes back." And it was me and Black Bart standing there listening to it like he was one of the agents. And I went, "Oh God, don't do that." Why? I said, "Brother, don't do that, because it'll piss him off, and he will beat the living shit out of you." What? And he didn't do it, and that's the only reason, because what he was going to do, I forgot what he was going to do, but it wouldn't have it would have endeared Billy Jack to him. Billy Jack, I've read about some of his stuff, and he was not a hitman to kill people, but he was paid to really mess people up, and he could. He was a big guy too. So, and I don't know if wrestling added to his mental illness, getting hit on the head, contributed to it, but he's a guy that if he likes you, he's fine. But when he gets anger, he has anger management issues. He just can't handle it. So anyway, and I think this is what I've read about it. He killed his wife, and he had just married her recently, about a year or two ago.
Mm-hmm.
And she had, what did she have? Dementia?
Something like that, yeah. Keep in mind, she was 20 years older than him, something like that.
Yeah. And he said he killed her to put her out of her misery. because she was really, really gone. And he shot her and killed her, and thinking that he was doing her a favor. And I think he presented that to the prosecuting attorney, and they said, this guy's crazy. And I'm glad they recognized that, because I don't, there's humane ways to handle things. And I think they need to just put him in prison, a mental hospital, and let him stay there.
You were right, by the way. Salem, Oregon. I had no idea. Well done.
You never questioned me on that.
Yeah, I love that film as well, and I didn't know it was set there.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yes, very good book as well.
Who was it? Jack Nicholson in it?
Yep.
Jack who?
Yep.
And he didn't know when they put him in there, it was dead time. He thought if he just do his 30 days or whatever, he'd get out. No, that's it. Till he gets better, he's going to stay in that hospital, and he didn't even know that. Mm-hmm. And I love the Indian in it too. If anybody hasn't seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, I highly recommend that movie. So it's a great movie.
The Billy Jack Haynes thing. Okay, just before I say what I was going to say, it's like, well, do you want to know like his mental state then? I mean, Exhibit A would be, here's this RF video shoot interview he did a few years ago, where he starts talking about like all the weird conspiracies where he somehow knows everything about everything. And then, like, the Boys on the Tracks murders or whatever like that. I even looked up the records, like, the day the day of the murders, where Billy Jack Haynes somehow claimed he was all involved. He was 1,000 miles away, wrestling somewhere else. It's like,
okay, the Boys on the Tracks, where was that?
I don't know, like, Alabama or Arkansas or something, maybe. I can't remember.
Okay.
But, like, he was wrestling in, like, California that day. But, yeah, he was mental for decades. Like, to the point he was trying to insert himself into these very famous stories.
I cannot. That is one reason I never made plans to make a trip with Billy Jack. I didn't want to be sitting there with a guy who's really just about to blow his top at all times. But when you talk to him, he spoke very low and he spoke under control. And I don't know, I never saw him really get mad at anybody, but I've heard, and I didn't want to be anywhere around him. So
nuts. That made international news, because apparently a lot of people didn't realize that Billy Jack Haynes would just make up nonsense. Like, he was like, I have proof that Chris Benoit was Vince McMahon's son, or Vince McMahon had fathered Chris Benoit's son, and that's why Vince McMahon orchestrated Benoit and the entire family's death and stuff. And he's like, I've got proof. And that's what all these conspiracy nut jobs like Billy's always say. I've got the proof. They never show the proof.
No. But with a headline like that, if you saw it somewhere, you'd read it. That's all they want you to do anyway, is read it, click on it. But he was doing this way back. He wasn't depending on clicks. It was something that he said. So anyway, I think, how old is he now? 75?
71, apparently.
71.
There's one more thing that we didn't mention, is that the woman who he married was the mother of his best friend. And then his best friend died, or one of his best friends died. And so he immediately married the mother, who was in her like mid-80s. And then,
really?
Then like a year later, he blows her head off.
Insane.
Well, he's where he belongs.
Insane. Really insane.
Now, this next story is a bit of a non sequitur, really. I meant to put this earlier in the format, but we'll get into it now. Jeff Cobb switches names to JC Mateo.
Mateo.
Why?
Hell, I don't know. They can't call him JC, I guess. I don't know why.
Well, they've already called him Jeff Cobb. They called him Jeff Cobb at the Backlash pay-per-view.
Well, I think he had to be somewhere related to the bloodline. I think that's why they did it. But everybody knows he's not, but they just call him a name. And I don't think to me, I think he's an impressive looking guy, but I don't think that he is, he adds to that. I really don't. Because when they take Fatu and they will turn them on him eventually, and he'll need a partner, and he'll go to JC Mateo. It might make sense in that way. but we're too early in the story now. But I don't think he really fits in there with all those Samoans. I really don't.
Well, I think he's
Are they
part
trying
Samoan.
to say that he is Samoans too?
I think he's part Samoan, but he's also part Filipino, which is where Mateo comes from. Apparently, that's a common Filipino surname.
I didn't know that. Well, I know it now, by God. So, but anyway, we're going to have to watch that story. And that's another story. Sometimes WWE gets a story and they actually hang on to it too long. For me, you know, a lot of time with the Rock, they went forever with that. But they got a lot of business out of it. But we'll see what they're going to do. So, are you interested in it?
Not massively, no. Because Jacob Fatu is already like the premier Samoan, I guess.
Yeah.
And the next up and comer. And it's fine to have Jeff Cobb there, I guess. But the problem is that JC Mateo sounds like such an indie-rific name compared to Jeff Cobb, which he's established over many years. And I know that WWE like to switch names up and have the intellectual property and, you know, trademarks to those names and stuff. Well, but I think for Jeff Cobb, it doesn't work. Jeff Cobb's fine. It shouldn't have been changed.
Yeah, but he may not have given him Jeff Cobb. Well, he may not have agreed for them to use that name.
I think he absolutely would have agreed. It's just that, you know, WWE just sometimes just do it. I don't get it.
But you don't know. Do you know? Do you know 100% that he was saying, well, you can have the Jeff Cobb name? No. Now, once they trademark that, that's theirs.
I think Jeff Cobb's his real name, though, so they couldn't trademark it. He's Jeffrey Cobb is his real name. So he could lease his name. Yeah, he could lease his name to them for a while, but yeah.
I think he just wanted to get a job and making that big money and said, do whatever you want with it, just throw me some money. I think that's what happened.
Most likely, I think, and rightly so as well. He's already 42 years old, so he needs to get that money while he can. And here's something else. You just picking up on what you said before. You were saying some storylines going too long. Now, obviously, the Bloodline's gone through so many iterations. Roman Reigns was there and then gone, and Sami Zayn was in and out, and the Usos are now out, both of them, and now we've got Jeff Cobb and Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu. And are you of the opinion it's just going on too long now? Is it just lost? Has it just lost its luster, or what?
Well, I thought it lost its luster before, and then they came back and they hit a home run. I don't remember what they did, but it increased my interest in it.
It's not main event though anymore. I mean, all the other times it was main event stuff that they kept rejuvenating. Now it just seems like a mid card act.
Well, it is. That's basically what it's fallen down to. But let's see what they do with it, because I don't have the magic tablet for them to take, and they just have to have one good idea that brings it all back. So we'll see what that is. But they still have the framework in place to keep it all rolling.
We shall move on with our final story, and then we'll close down this show. Ted, now I know for a fact you've been waiting with bated breath for months and months and months to hear something going on with this, and finally we've got some news. Ted Dibiase Jr. fraud trial hearing. Apparently, he's facing up to 45 years for this fraud case.
Ooh. Well, what was the guy we just talked about that was in prison because he was mentally deficient? What was his name?
Billy Jack Haynes, yeah.
Billy Jack Haynes may get a cot ready for you, buddy. That's what I'm going to say. He cannot do, and this is the wrong time in history in the United States to be found even leaning toward being crooked. As we just come off the Biden years and all this other stuff with this congressman and this. But I think he's looking at 45 years. I don't think he'll get 45. I think he's guilty, though. But I think he'll get 10, and maybe he might get 15 with 5 cut off. But I think he'll do 10 years. I really do. Because how's he going to get out of this stuff? Well, if he did it, he did it.
Well, I'm going to give you some PW Insider Mike Johnson wrote about this, so I'm going to give you some quotes from that report. A hearing was held earlier this week before the Mississippi Southern District Court regarding the criminal case for former WWE star Ted Dibiase Jr. Dibiase is still slated to stand trial on August 26th at 9 a.m, jury selection a week before. All experts for the trial must be filed, blah, blah. Anyway, Dibiase Jr. was arrested in April 2023 on one count of conspiracy to commit wire fraud and to commit theft concerning programs receiving federal funds. So for people who don't know, essentially Ted, his brother Brett, which for some reason I don't think Brett's his real name, and even Ted DiBiase Sr. was brought into this at one point, but no files have been charged against him, I don't think, at this point. Essentially misappropriating funds that were meant for charitable causes.
Yes.
So that sounds about right. Conspiracy to commit wire fraud and to commit theft concerning programs receiving federal funds, 6 counts of wire fraud, 2 counts of theft concerning programs receiving federal funds, and 4 counts of money laundering. The government had filed a previous motion stating the discovery in this case is extensive and additional time is needed by both sides to review the case, etc. If convicted, the third-generation pro wrestling star faces a maximum penalty of 5 years in prison for the conspiracy count, a maximum penalty of 20 years in prison for each wire fraud count, and a maximum penalty of 10 years in prison for each count of theft concerning programs receiving federal funds and for each count of money laundering. DiBiase is facing a maximum of 5 years imprisonment on the one count of conspiracy and up to a $250,000 fine. More $250,000 fines and everything else that I've just basically repeated, so that's potential 45 years. I've got more to read here, if so, but I mean, you hear all that. I mean,
it's too much.
What was it claimed that he bought? Like a boat? At one point, I think it was alleged.
He bought a house.
Yeah, bought a house.
I think that's what he bought. So how do you say, wait a minute, I bought this house, I need to hide it? How are you going to hide a house? How are you going to hide all the records for that? I think he's pleaded guilty to it, hasn't he?
No, it's going to trial.
Well, I don't think this is any time in the history of United States politics that this is going to get him out of it. I don't care who he is, and I wish him luck. But when you do something like that, you got to think. Well, you got to think a bit. At least if you get caught, how you going to get out of it? And I don't think he put much thought into that. So I still think he'll end up with about. They will put all those charges together. I think he'll be convicted on most of them because I don't know. I really haven't even. Those are serious charges, and it's with money and it's taxpayer money. And now, since they got this thing going on in the U.S., it's called Doge, where they're going through everything and throwing out all the corruption and all the stuff. They don't know where the money was going to. Bad time to get busted like this in a state like Mississippi.
Yeah, so this is federal funds as well, so therefore it's got to be a federal case.
Yes, it is.
And I think you told me this, like the federal government, more than a regular trial, has got a very high closure rate with these kinds of cases.
Well,
right?
The thing with a federal charge, I read, I don't know if I'm correct on this, say you get 10 years. Now, if you get 10 years on a state charge, you can get out on parole after a third of it is served on time spent and you're on probation. If you get 10 years on a federal charge, you will spend more than 8.5 years in prison before you get out. So I don't know if that's true or not. That's what I've heard. But Mr. DiBiase, good luck to you, sir.
Dibiase Jr. previously pled not guilty to all charges before the Mississippi Southern District Court and was released on an unsecured $10,000 bond. He was told he must advise the court before making any changes of residence, etc. When asked for comment leaving the courtroom by WAPT TV, Dibiase remarked, "Jesus loves you, brother. God bless you, man." That's it.
Who said that?
Junior said that as he was leaving the court.
Oh, yeah. I hope Jesus loves him. when he's sitting there, because they got these federal prisons all over the place, and you go in there, you're not breaking out. They just had 10 inmates break out of the New Orleans jail.
Yeah, you know what really annoyed me is that they spelt two, because it was like too easy, lol, but they spelled it T-O, not T-O-O.
Yeah.
You dumbasses.
Idiots. Complete idiots.
Yeah, but apparently they had they had someone complicit on the inside, was the rumor, was the idea.
That's what they're saying, and that's what it looks like to me, because those are people for murder charges. You don't put them. I saw a clip last night. A guy from the prison said, you don't put guys charged with murder on the first floor. They're always on the second or third floor. And I guess that's a security device or that they use to keep those breakouts down. But they were on the first floor, and nobody knows what reason. They'll get somebody. If they think it's in help from the inside, they'll find that out.
You know what?
Or if I tell you what, me and you could go down there and walk through it, and we'll spend 3 days down there. We'll charge them like $50,000, and we'll find out the culprits and have them arrested.
If we're going to misappropriate funds, we need to misappropriate more than $50,000. I mean, my flights alone. Do you know it'd be funny? Those prison breakout things. If they just left a poster over the hole with Rita Hayworth on it, and then it could really be right. Shawshank Redemption.
And yeah, 2 T-O, easy. You look at him and say, what a bunch of goofs.
Yeah, right, on that basis, then we're going to shut down the show. So actually, we've made it 1 hour 46. We will see you again on Sunday. Once again, the questions for Dutch @gmail.com is the email if you want to write to us on Sunday. Until then, Dutch, we will see you then. We the people.
We the people.